Big fat slob. Oh, life. No, it's been a while. It's been a while. Hope you've all been well, or as well as can be expected under this dreadful situation. You know, it was only brought home to me because I'm 67 years of age and I've got quite a serious back problem. You can see that with a fat belly and the dribbles of food and all that. It's a great effort just to go and make myself some food. And that's why not been online for quite some time. And that's been kind of depressing. I find it hard to motivate myself. And I've got a lot to say about specifically alcoholism, which is pretty good, considering I used to drunk. I used to lie in the gutter looking down my nose at people. Wow. And I did that. I remember I heard that in the A meeting once. I thought, yeah, God's truth. That's what I was doing. Looking to lying in the gutter looking down my nose at people. It's powerful. And I had to be there to hear it. Which is fair enough. But here I am today, whatever day this is. So, what's the date? Oh, I can't see it. It's Thursday. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's Thursday, the 6th of August at 2 p.m. British Mean Time, or whatever it's called. Yeah. So, I thought I've kind of overcome this obstruction. This is, what does it say about not doing things that you know will make you feel better? I can't remember what that is. Not doing something that you know will make you feel better. And, procrastination. I'm a bit slow because I'm out of practice. And at 67, it's a wee bit harder. Not meaning that as an excuse, it's just a fact. If you manage to hear this through, you'll realise it. Yeah, I get what you mean. Get what you mean, son. So here I am. So what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about the most important thing in my life. A process I went through that changed my life. And for that, I'll need to give you a bit of background. Now, in your average AA meeting, I'll tell you a bit about myself, they say. And then they go on for half an hour dribbling on about the how they were born, how they were brought up, and their encounters with alcohol, and sometimes funny things, and nothing funny about it, pal. I always remember that right from the start. Why are they laughing at this? What's going on? Said it at a meeting once. It's a big meeting as well. And I was just so annoyed. And I just said, you know, I don't find anything funny in this comedian sitting there, and everybody's commenting on the humour of it and all that. And here's me, I don't find it funny. I don't find nothing funny about it at all. Nobody came to help me with it, and I didn't understand why. I felt alienated and ostracised and shunned, unclean. And I didn't have the programme. I certainly wanted it, although I didn't even know that. And nobody responded to me except with negativity. Nobody thought, this guy's looking for something, this guy wants something. Because there was nobody in the room. And I swear there was more than 30 people in that room. And there was nobody there who had the programme and who could come to me and carry the message. Because it was obvious in that statement that I wanted something. And I wasn't just playing the game. Neurotic laughter, as Clarence Snyder would say. Good old Clarence. Should listen to Clarence if you ever get the chance. The home brewmeister. Yeah, neurotic laughter. Everybody else is laughing, so I'll laugh. Yeah, it's pathetic. Yet it's a trait throughout the human race. There's lots and lots of people do that. Lots and lots of people do it. Just your own personality. I think I've got my own personality. I think so. I don't just sit and listen to stuff and nod my head, I have an opinion. If you don't want to listen to it, fuck off. Simple as that. I'm not just forcing you. Shut off. Excuse the language, because I rarely do I swear. So when I'm on this topic, I do swear. I do get upset. I'll make an excuse of that. But I do get upset. I'll try to minimise it because I realise how offensive swearing can be. Yeah, I learned that in the man who took me through the programme. And I noticed you swear a lot at meetings, John. Yeah, there's a problem. Because I'd sworn all my life. The F word and the C word. And in England, London, that was a really bad word. But in Scotland, it means nothing. But if you call a woman a cow up in Glasgow, she'll be seriously offended. You're referring to her as a prostitute or an easy woman. Whereas down in London, that's silly cow. Yeah, oh, so it means it's different. And I didn't understand any of that nonsense. It says, I said, yeah, well, what do you do? What do you say? I was brought up with it. It's just intuitive. It's intuitive. I learned the meaning of that word. It's a good word, intuitive. Don't let me forget it. And so I didn't know. It's just that's the way I spoke. I didn't mean to offend anyone. I didn't realise that people were walking away and people were, why is he not sitting down? Why is he not talking? Didn't understand. Didn't understand. And they didn't understand. But why would they? And here's this man, Amy, where in Hertfordshire, where I now live, in Chisholm. Lovely little place. Lovely little place. Yeah, and I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know. And I didn't know I didn't know. I'll get to that one a bit deeper further on, maybe, if I remember. Take notes. Take notes. Get prepared. Don't just dive in there. Where's your false tooth? Not a false tooth. I don't have an ego as such. Why would you have an ego in the state I'm in? 67 years of age. I have an ego, perhaps, as far as the programme's concerned. Perhaps. I certainly know what I'm talking about. Because it's very simple. Very simple. Even a dummy like me can get it. And here's this man talking to me about my language. And what he didn't know was that I liked listening to this soft-spoken Irishman, and I wanted to ask him to sponsor me. Like, oh, we can sponsor. Pop's visions of what did they call him? Something called. His name is. He's in CA. What he does, he's one of these. He's one of these politicians, and he goes to all these oral conferences or whatever. I call him Pope Paul and his disciples. A very, very sick guy. But everybody loves him. My sincerity. People tell me, people ask me, why are you so happy, Paul? Blood's cringing. No, they don't. Total delusion. But because they're all laughing, you're out to laugh. Right, okay. Nobody challenges them until I come up and I challenge them. And then I'm the enemy because he's your hero. Pope Paul and his apostles. Aye. You may get another mention, don't know. Astonishing character. Astonishing character. And absolutely convinced that he's right. Unbelievable. Doesn't like the man in page 18. We'll go further into that later on as well, if I remember. If I remember. I have to discipline myself because ultimately this isn't about a performance by me. This is about a 12-step recovery program that saves lives. So swiftly moving back to what the man was saying to me about my language. He says, well, you run the risk of offending someone. He's got his hand on my arm, which is very disarming. And he probably knew that. You run the risk of offending someone, John. Do I? First time I've heard that in my life. Yeah. First time anybody's ever challenged me on it. Because what they see is an aggressive angry Scotsman. And that's what swearing is, it's aggression. And they just stayed away from it. Wow. You know, if they could only meet me now, say, oh, what a wonderful chat. Why weren't you that way when I first met you? Because I was ill. And I didn't know I was ill. And I didn't know I didn't know. So the swearing was just, as I said, intuitive. And it was just part of my language. You run the risk of offending someone, John. He's smiling, nice smile, soft Irish accent. This is it. With a smile, you've no right to do it. And that, whoa, wait a minute. Everything had gone. He's not going to sponsor me now. Sponsor. You know, Paul. There's so many negatives come up with these words I use. And what they use. And I thought, oh, do I punch him? No. Do I just walk away? No. What did I do? And this is within a split second. And he changed the subject. I asked him to sponsor me. Well, that was a nonsense as well. I'm still not sure what was going on. This is going back 25 years. And he says, yeah, I'll go and ask my sponsor. I'd already asked 2 psychopaths because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a 40-year-old child and the risk of being decide who's going to be my sponsor. You know, it's a blind leading the blind. And these 2 people, I say they're psychopaths. One was a bit another, but he was flashing. He was this and I thought, yeah. And then the next one was the exact opposite, sensible, sober, professional guy. Nice. Oh, had a BMW. Oh, rock on. And owned a detached house and Potter's Bar. Oh, Kevin, I think was the name. Exact opposite. But just as crazy when he came to the programme. And he kept asking me, "Do you get that?" And I'm nodding my head when he should know. If he's nodding his head, he should be shaking his head. Don't understand it. You know, I'm not giving him any feedback that suggests I'm understanding it. But that came in nothing. He said a few very helpful things, you know, about my patients understanding my patients. He sounded upset, John, but I was on the phone. Couldn't get my head around that phoning in. I won't phone you, you phone me. What? Immediate rejection in my childlike mind. As he said, you sound upset, John. What's so upset you? I said, well, yeah, actually, now you asked. Don't ask an alcoholic. Sometimes upset them. What? A guy called me up this morning, taking the kids to school. I was a driving instructor at the time. He said, no, I didn't cut you up, John. And I thought he'd misheard me, so I repeated it. And he repeated it. He didn't cut you up, John. What are you talking about? You weren't there. You know, all that kind of stuff. But he didn't play a game with me. Some of them fucking head fucking play games with you. He said, he cut a car up, John. He didn't know you were driving it. And I stopped immediately. I thought, well, that's right. He didn't know I was driving it. He could have been rushing off to the hospital. It could have been his last chance at work to get in on time. There could have been quite a few reasons why the guy was in a rush and cut you up. And you didn't consider that. You just took it immediately personally. Wow. That changed my whole attitude towards driving. I was a nutter, I was a psychopath. I had to get by everybody. If you were in front of me, I had to get by you. And that was just insane. My crazy wife put up with it. I had my kids in the car as well. No good. This guy is a psychopath. This is crazy. She just sat there in the front seat. I was like, maybe even been terrified at times. The kids sitting there like, oh, what's that? What's happening here? What's happening? Who's doing that on? And my Nicola was very sharp and picked up on stuff. I stopped doing it. I started driving in the speed limits, and wow, what a difference. And that changed things, whatever way they changed it. And, my sick wee wife, I don't even know if she would have noticed it. Well, I didn't know she was sick. But she didn't know she was sick. And she didn't know she was sick. You'd have to be sick to put up with me. You know, let's talk to you and let's talk to you about your husband. Why'd you put up with this? Why'd you put up with that? Sensible people don't do that, dear. Oh, no, right. No, yeah. So you're gonna have to get a program, basically. On and all that stuff. Sometimes a dating agency. Oh, no. I know that from first-hand experience. I'm getting off the track here. I'm only talking about the man and the swearing. So that changed me. That made such a difference for me. And it was so profound, so simple. And eventually the man got round to take me through the program. There's something sinister involved in it, and I wasn't aware of the time. It didn't work it out, you know. But I was very patient. And I think I waited for about 6 months. I didn't realise that maybe he was frightened of me because I screwed my face up when I talked to people. My mother used to do that. And I screwed my face up. Just talking about things rather than from angry, you know. Quite a few people said that to me after I got the program because it changed. You know, she used to be so angry. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were actually. You looked at you had that growl on your face, you know, snarl. Because of the program, I realised that, my God, I'm surprised when people don't want to talk to you. People avoided you. Wow, these were awakenings. It's very powerful, powerful stuff. And eventually the man took me through the program. He did suggest that I had to study the program, which is total rubbish. If you're sitting out there and you get sponsored telling you have to study the program, chuck them in the bin and get somebody else, or do it yourself. You're better off doing it yourself than having one of these people, you know, like Pope Paul and his apostles. I'm going to really rub this one in, Paul. If you get to listen to this, I'm going to really rub it in because you deserve it. I won't be distracted. Anyway, I went to the man's house. His wee out garden, his outbuilding. Nice. It was August. It was August 70, August 90 something. Maybe there. No, there. 93. 95 for the yeah. Even around 95, August 95, 94. I went to a man's house, sat down. He showed me how to write out by step 4 paper, how to lay it out, you know, I resent column, the cause, bigger column, the effect, smaller column at the end, so I've got 3 columns, as it is in the book. Oh, should I get my book? Should I rely on memory? Where's my book? You see, I don't really need my book because I forgot. Well, bear with me. Back again. Sorry about that. Bad bite, I told you. Yeah, I'm not just acting here. So anyway, why did I get this? I've only just been down to get it and I've forgotten why I got it. Why did I tell you that? Yeah, the man told me that I had to study the first 164 pages on it. Right. And I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with it. I just knew this is not right. I don't know, I just had a feeling. I'd done hundreds of meets. I'm talking easily 500 meetings in that first 18 months. Easily 500 meetings. Nobody done more meetings than me. And wow, it was an exciting, it was an adventure, it was a safari, it was all of that stuff. And here he's sitting there saying you have to study the program. And I struggled with it. I phoned people up. Should I just write it out? Should I just do this? Should I just do that? Yeah, you've got to look for words for God. What is it? Repeat information. Words for God. I've forgotten it. Thank God, I've forgotten it. I find it kind of difficult to remember. But there were 7 things. You musts, and you betters, and things like that. And I tried my best to do it. But eventually, the man decided, for whatever reason, he had to keep in touch with his sponsor, who was in Canada or America or something. Dan Brown turned out to be a dodgy wee character in Switzerland. But he was the man. He brought the program, this study version of the program, which is total and utter crap, because there's absolutely nowhere in the first 103 pages, and I stress 103 because that's where the 12 steps are. It's into a different world after that, and there's nowhere it says that you study it. There's clear-cut, precise instructions. Follow the instructions. Well, why would you have to study it if they're giving you the instructions? Just follow them. Swearing again. Or swearing my way. You just follow the instructions. Then it's simple. Which why is this so difficult? You know, they didn't get that. They didn't understand that. They didn't say, but that's not simple. You know, I've got the mind of a 10-year-old child. That's not simple. The people who wrote the book, they say it's simple, and it is simple if you follow the clear-cut, precise instructions. And there's nowhere in the clear-cut, precise instructions that it says you bloody well study it, but you don't. Imagine a book of instructions. All right. So what do you do with a book of instructions? Follow the instructions. How simple can it be? So I done that. Done a step forward for and done the columns separately, because if you do them across the way, down halfway down, some crops up that reflects to some earlier on. You go back and start editing this. You know, typical alky. You just blow up and forget about it, stuff it under the bed. So do the columns separately. I resent the cause effects. You do that for people. And they talk to me about people, places, and things. Things. What is that? Things. What does that mean? Things. Ask any alky, wherever in the world you are. And if you have to be watching this, which would be nice, nice for you, because you'll get unadulterated transfer of information from me to you through this book, and everything I'm going to say, you will find it in the book. And if you don't, if I might make a human mistake, by all means contact me and let me know, because I'm seriously open to that. Seriously open to that. But yeah. So you've got your columns, and you've got people, places, and things. Places are places. You know, you're right that I resent people, I resent institutions, places, and I resent principles. I had to ask the man what that meant, didn't know what it meant. I went to grammar school, or grammar school, and here I am at 40, not even 41, and I don't know what an institution's the principle, don't know principle. The man said to me, says, rules in life. What do you mean? Well, you don't particularly like paying your car tax, do you? You don't particularly like paying tax. You think paying this and that's a rip-off, you know, because you're paying it to the government or the council and stuff like that. And you're right, but so there you go. You've got 3 columns for all of this stuff, and you don't think about any of it. You just put it down as soon as it comes to your head. Automatically put it down, blah blah blah, then move on to the next one, blah blah blah. Because we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it in depth. All right, okay. So we done that, and that was fine. And I learned a lot from that. And I think basically what I learned was what I was responsible for and what other people were responsible for. Basically, what I wasn't responsible for. What I was and what I wasn't responsible for. Wow. That changed me within an afternoon. Wow. So that wasn't, no. And that was, yeah. I learned what they call discernment. Didn't know what that meant either. To discern, to be able to work out, to be able to see things clearly, and then come to a conclusion. It was astonishing. I seriously advise you to have a go at it because it's so exciting. It is so exciting. And just do that. So there we are. We had the three columns, basically of what people had done to me and what the world had done to me. Right. Now we have to go back to setting aside the wrongs of others, and we have to resolutely look for our part. Where were we at fault? Was our mistake? Who had we harmed? Oh, right. Okay. So I have to do the same again with different three columns, right? Uh, who have I harmed? I resent cause effects. My mistake. Who have I harmed? What part of me was at fault? So I've made a mistake here. Yes. Like what part of you? Whether you're selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, or frightened. You know, say something you don't mean because you're too frightened. Stuff like that. But that was fascinating as well. Because I've just come from realising that it wasn't my fault. And the problems of the world weren't all down to me. But now I've got to go back to it. And I've got to resolutely look for my mistake. Who was I harmed? And I'm getting wee twitches here, so it's just a while since I've looked at it. So I'm going to have a look at it just to make sure. Interaction. It's not interaction, is it? Chapter 5. I suppose it's just about anything I could read from this book could create a decent discussion, any paragraph. We go on from that. Here's a nice part here, page 66. You can see it. We went back through our lives, nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. This is the first three columns. The first thing that appeared apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. That's good, yeah. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. Right. So they're all wrong, but not wrong with me. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. It's plain that a life which includes deep resentments, leads only to futility and unhappiness. Well, of course it's clear, because we end up fall down drunks. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. But with alcohol, whose hope is but with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal, for when harbouring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight and of the spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again, and with us to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be dubious luxuries of normal men, but for alcoholic, these things are poison. I spoke about earlier, getting angry when I was driving the car and really winding myself up. And that simple statement the man did. Wow, that's deep resentment. And I didn't know, I didn't know. Cunning bastard and powerful. We turn back to the list. For it held the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. my mistake. Part of it from a die hard. So that's page 66. But I'm going to skip a few paragraphs because you can do this yourself, really. It's just to refresh it in my mind. We avoid retaliation. This is the second paragraph of page 67. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. Oh yeah. Easier said. Easier said than done. Well, referring to our list again. This is a list that will not of people who will not present us next. Putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistake. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Said Diana. No one taught me, Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed it. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. Wow. This is big stuff. And you're writing it all down when you're discussing it with a man. I mean, never referred to it, but main because it was all so clear for me. You could see it. You could see it in me. And because you can see that, I've seen it so many times. And I can take people through. And you just know that it's just a feeling, and it's spiritual. But don't talk to them. We argue about that because it'll blow his mind. People to be spiritual. Oh God, spiritual, here we go. Oh, I knew it'd be that religious. Nah. Actually, the word spiritual is very simple. To be in spirit, to be inspired. That's what spiritual means. Wow. So I don't have to bounce about in mattresses and go off chanting into the woods and dance around naked. No. To be in spirit, to be inspired. Wow. To bravely go where no man has gone before. Just thought I'd throw that little bit of Star Trek, Star Trek. Jim. Captain Jim. James T. Kirk. I'm digressing. Just taking a little break, getting my head together. So that's how simple it is. And that's all you do. And the man's really important at that point. You need the man at that point to discuss it with, to challenge some of you. Well, maybe do a bit of duck and dive, a bit of what is it? Rationalization and vindication, rather. Stuff that I never understood. To rationalize something in a way that it vindicates me. Oh, yeah, right, I get that. Yeah, duck and dive, yeah. Try to hide from, yeah, thanks. There's no getting away. There's no getting away from this. The only way you get away from it is just to have I'm off seeing that. I stuck with that because I was fascinated and I was feeling good because I was in spirit that I didn't know I was in. On reflection. I seriously recommend that you do this. I mean, it took me longer because I thought I'd been told that all sorts of nightmares about the program and what you had to do in step 4 was step 4 was step 4. And oh my God. I mean, they frightened the life out of people. Most people, I suspect most people who don't go back to AA, they would put it down to that. Well, they would have talked about step 4, I didn't like that. And yet, wow. And it takes an afternoon, maybe a bit longer. It took me a bit longer because I couldn't believe I was doing it too fast. So I was doing it so quickly. So I played it out a bit, I played it out. And because of all this crap that I did in AA about it as well. That's simple. Actually, it is. It is that simple. Look at sexual conduct. Yeah, look at fears. What am I fearful of? Not what I'm frightened of. It's what I'm fearful of. Yeah, well, there's certain things. Flying, don't like flying. I'm fearful of flying. That's a certain. I'm fearful of confrontational situations. A few years ago, because of my reaction to it, but now I'm too old. I can play on it to a certain degree because I'm so old and I'm limping about. I don't see myself being this old decrepit man, do they see? So when I get in their face, they go, oh, what do you do with this? You can't help them, you can't punch them, you can't do whatever. Maybe there's a bit of benefit in that. Maybe I'll have to do a set time on it. There's always an answer in this stuff. So I look at my fears and I'm okay, fine. Yeah, and that's basically it. As far as I can remember. It's basically it. So I go home, the man shows me page 76, I think it is. Pretty sure. 75, bought my page 75. And all of this is backing up what I'm saying as well, so that's quite handy to refer to the book, to remind you. Here it is, returning home, bit, last paragraph. Final paragraph, page 75. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. Carefully reviewing what we have done, we thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know it better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar out of sand? Well, I was guided by the man, so I kind of didn't have a problem with it, didn't see a problem with it. And 5 proposals. I had to phone them. What's this 5 proposals? I'd never heard this before. I'd been to hundreds of meetings. I'd never heard that before. The only time I ever heard anybody talking about the steps is 2012. And if you read the prologue or whatever it is to it, it tells you that it's not the program. It's an intuitive. What is it? Personal interpretation of the 12 steps by a co-founder. An interpretive commentary by a co-founder on the 12 steps. That's all it is. An interpretive commentary. It is not the program. When you go to a step meeting and the outcomes 12 and 12, how are they surprised that the message is deleted when they're using a book there's nothing to do with it? And yet you go to these 12 step 12 and 12 meetings and you tell them that. Well, I do. I tell it to them. This isn't the program. You're not carrying the message here. Should be doing this. They never change. Shocking. Killing people. They're just to get really serious. People die because of it. People die. They walk away from the where did they go? They go back to the booze. Because they don't like the way they're thinking. And the booze helps them to change the way they're thinking. That's why alcoholics are alcoholics. That's why they drink alcohol, to change the way they're thinking. Fact. In this book, 12 Simple Steps help you to change your thinking. To the degree, as in my case, you don't need to drink 27 years later. I'm sitting here talking to you guys. I would say, I would hazard that 7 out of 10 people don't make it in AA. And that's been kind. And I wonder what happens to them. Quite a few of them will die. I'm not going to be responsible for that. I'm going to stick to this book. To whoever's listening. If anybody. So page 76 is really, this is the introduction to it. Mortar out of sand. Proposals. What's a proposal? Well, it's just another name for stepson. So why didn't they just say that? Because I didn't know. And I was annoyed when I get confused. I was annoyed because I was deep down, I was really aware of how serious this was and how important it was for me. And yeah, so I felt annoyed. Why didn't they just say that? And they said, yeah, you're right. Because he never argued with me, because he knew it would be pointless, because he was talking to a 40-year-old child. So yeah, that's right. Don't let it get in the way, Joe. Turn the page. So I turned to page 76. Page 76. Have we got a favourite page? Where? Hmm. If we can answer to our satisfaction about the proposals, we then look at step 6. We look at it. We don't practice it. We look at it. We have emphasised willingness as being indispensable. Right? Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can He now take them all? Every one. If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. When ready, we say something like this. So you've got a few bits and doubts in step 6. And not too sure about this and not too sure about that. So this is step. We're now moving into step 7. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. Completed on a daily basis. It's completed. You'll practice step 7. Just a prayer. If you need it. You might not need it. Now we need more action. And by the way, when I say you might not need it, you might think I'm being a bit flip or whatever. My 16-year-old son was murdered 3 days before he was about to sign to a professional football club. He was a good lad. He was a good lad. He was a funny lad. He was really popular. And he was murdered. Jesus, imagine having to put that aside. Imagine having to get that out of your head to go on with this stuff. I done it. I done it. Putting aside the wrongs of others. Wow. Just sort of throw that in, but gravitas never. Hey, this is really serious. This guy's son was murdered. And a great life ahead of him. And here he is, doing this stuff. Wow. If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us. We will cling to something we will not let go. My God. Could there be anything worse than that? Fascinating. So I've completed step 7. Don't practice step 7. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. That's right. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. My sponsor said I've got to make a list of people. Step 8. What's the point of doing that? You've already done that in step 4 and 5. But my sponsor said, well, your sponsor's wrong. And there it is in the book that he's wrong, not just my opinion. And this happens quite often. These so-called sponsors. Oh, Pope Paul and his apostles. The man in page 18. I didn't cover him, did I? Without whom little or nothing can be achieved. Important page 18. So we'll look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of previous. We are willing to make amends. We made it into Canberra. We subjected ourselves to drastic self-appraisal. Now we go to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. if we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. Probably there's some misgivings. And they go on quite a few pages as regards for this making amends. You know? But basically what the man said to me was, he said, don't do anything without discussing it with me. Don't go off there charging in your white steed and go and solve the world and whatever else. Which you could cause a lot of problems. I like to make amends for having an affair with your wife, but you're an affair with my wife. Right, yeah. You get what I mean. And it's really important. They go on for pages and pages with this. So it's really important. It's probably the most covered step because it goes from page 76, step 6, and finishes on step 8. So 6, 7, 8, it's 3 steps and 2 paragraphs. Really important page. Really important page. So we go from the bottom of page 76 to the middle of page 84. And step 9 stuff. So yeah, we consider that daily reading was you're out there and you're talking to the man or the woman. So you should be okay. You should be okay. Well, if it's the man that I had, there's very few of them. I've only met one other person like him. And guess who? Me. And yet most people say, no, you're the exact opposite. Because you're very aggressive, you're very this, you're very that, and he's very quiet. Yep, very quiet. But still saying the same thing. Didn't you notice that? Learn to listen. And listen to learn. Sometimes it's better to just shut your eyes and not see the person's face. Just shut your eyes and listen. Interesting. Maybe take 2 weeks off sharing. Just go to your meetings and take maybe a month if you do 1 or 2 meetings a week. Take a month off from sharing. Just don't share and listen. Because then you do listen. You know, just if you go into a room and there's sharing around the room. So you're sitting there and it's coming round to your turn and you've heard quite a few people say that and quite a few people say that. And it comes to you and you feel obliged to respond to what they've said. You know, usual stuff, you know. And then it moves on from you and there's other people, but you don't hear about this because you're too busy thinking about what you've previously said. And it's just total confusion. Sharing around the room. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Topic discussion meeting. As recommended by AA. Get it done. There's loads of topics. They're all in. AA's got a whole list of topics. Over 200 specific and suggested. That's what we do on a Tuesday online. If you want to come and join us, look on. Yeah, come and join us. Yeah, that's a real AA meet, and it's the only one I know in the London area. It's the only one I know. Wow. There was one down in Ganshill years and years ago when I first came round. Ganshill, it's kind of East London anyway. And it's Monday night. That was good. I enjoyed that. Everybody would just pick a topic, you know, share for about 5 minutes on a topic, because you know all have to share. And the wee secretary, right, move on. Next topic, right, okay, move on, next topic. And they had wee sheets of paper made out with topics, and you would look through and you would pick your topic. Or no, you signed these little book, the little book, and they had topics as well to inspire. And you would write in his little book, John Mack, want to discuss serenity. And he would do it, right, okay, fine. Perfect little meeting, beautiful little meeting. And this one in Luton, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday. Be there, be square. That's basically the same. And what we'd end up doing is we end up just having a conversation. You know, because one leads into another, one leads into another. And wow. Dynamite. I can't resist this. But there's a wee guy called Jimmy. Comes from Letchworth. And he claims to be 30 odd years sober. He's a tiny wee guy. And he comes from Glasgow. And he fits the bill of a wee Glasgow hard man. Anything but. But wee Jimmy, he's not a happy man. Not happy. Especially when you start talking about this programme. Jimmy's upset. Yeah, that fucking microwave recovery. That's all that is. The express train to heaven. And you sound as though you're being critical there, Jimmy. Would you like to expand that? Yeah. This guy's stepping on just so. You know the most bizarre thing I've discovered? There's a committee. The guy who took me through the programme goes, that's his whole meeting, I think. And there's him, there's wee Jimmy, and there's the secretary. And that's the committee who select who's going to do the sharing of this meeting. And I talked to her, I said, why haven't you invited me to do this here? And I'm quite right. I'm quite right. Oh, get me in there. And some of them take it seriously the wrong way. He said, well, it's not just me. I said, well, who is it? He said, well, it's me and Bob, my man, and me, Jimmy. Said, he's never going to ask me. He hates me. He came down to the Tuesday afternoon meeting with one of his cohorts. And he came down to change the meeting. He said, no, he came down to shut it down. Psychopath. What are you saying? And that's what he said. He actually said, oh, we've come down to shut this meeting down because you're not doing it. And the wee secretary, the wee woman secretary, she used to be a bar woman, so no more. She told him where to go, basically. And then he started getting personal with me. It's always me. Then he wanted to start throwing punches. And I was fit at that time, so okay, as you wish, stand up to that. And his cohort he brought with him, he was another Scottish guy. I've met him since, doesn't say a word. Doesn't say a word. And he wanted to throw punches. And I'm okay for that, right? Well, if you punch me, I'll punch you. Marcus of Queensbury. I'm not going to punch you first. And the secretary, I can't remember her name again. She's still there. Been in this lockdown thing for so long, I've forgotten her name. What's her name? It's not Jane, it might be Jane. But she jumped up, grabbed him, right, out the door. So out the door he went. It was a Saturday night in the pub. And this pathetic little creature, and he still doesn't get it. And I've shared it in meetings where she's there without actually mentioning his name and shamed him. But he still doesn't get it. The you people amends for that disgraceful behaviour. But he is totally convinced. That's scary. And he's 30 odd years sober. Yeah. Member of the God Squad. Yeah, pretty good squad to be a member of, actually. Don't know why I get caught on that one, but there you go. Yeah, through page 84. This is what's going on step 10. Step 9. We will suddenly realise that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They'll always materialise if we work for them. But how do you work for them? 10 and 11. That's how you work for them. Simple as that. Is that it? 10 and 11? Yeah. We also had that. What page is the promises? Page 87. They've changed the pages. This is this new one. So things aren't worth. Or am I just making a pathetic excuse for not knowing? No, it's before. It's a step 9 promises. So that means it's before step 10. I think. Yeah. This still brings us to step 10. So it's page 83. Or 84. No, no, this is silly. I knew all of this off by heart. And it's the state main promises. They wouldn't have missed those out, would they? And I don't like this updating the book and things like that, because it doesn't need updating. It doesn't need updating. And we don't need to change it for different types of people. You know, because it's all this people who are sexually, don't know, different, you know. No, that's amazing. Anyway, there you go. So you've taken the first 9 steps. All right. For all intents and purposes, you have well, as long as you maintain your spiritual condition, because you've received the spiritual condition, which I did, just blew me away. Wow. I didn't even know it was a spiritual condition. But wow. And I've got to maintain it. I can get fit for football, but if I don't continue getting fit, I'll end up not being able to play football. I have to maintain it, I have to continue it. And this is what step 10 and 11 is all about. Continue to take inventory. And when we're wrong, promptly admit it. If a business doesn't take inventory, guess what? It generally goes bust. You know, you've got to check your goods on yourself and see what's selling and what's not selling. Because if you're just going to buy them all, then you end up with an excess of certain things and it goes to waste and you don't make money and you go bust. So it's very, very sound advice. A business that doesn't take inventory goes bust. And how we do that? We do that through step 10. Continue to take inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. We know how to take inventory through step 4. All right, so that's what I do. Yeah, that's it. You should just lay it out as soon as you did with step 4. All right, and put the date. All right, and if there's a day when you don't have anything, leave it blank, but put the date. And you know, don't just put it, stack it immediately below the next one. Leave a page, and then by the time you count through it, you start going through. So it's quite a few pages. I've not had any feelings of resentment. Wow, that's good. It's a week. That was a week ago. If they're all crammed together, you don't notice it. So yeah, it's a page. And yeah, I just do a step 4, a stroke 10 on my day. Was anybody did I resent anybody? Yeah. Gratitude. That's a big one. That's a big one. And it's lovely. Yeah, it took me a time to get into it. It takes a lot of people a time. Vast majority, more than the vast majority of people I've taken through the program, which has got to be knocking on 500 people. 500 people. Didn't believe it. And I knew I predicted this. I predicted this 10 years ago. If I tell people I've done this many, then I'm going to have to keep a diary of this. Shut up. I have to keep a diary. You don't have to prove nothing to anybody. Silly Billy. And so, yeah, it's got to be not nearer 504. That's for sure. That's for sure. And I won't explain it, but fascinating journey. Fascinating journey. So, yeah, that's how I'm laying out my step 10. And at the end of it, I do a gratitude list, which is really neat. Things I'm grateful for in the day. Really neat. Step 11, prayer. Sort through prayer and meditation, deep thinking, to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand it. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. It's very important. So that's basically what step 11 is all about. And it's very simple. It's entirely your own choice. Maybe a Buddhist or a Jain or Protestant or Catholic. Fine. Absolutely fine. And prayer and meditation. think deeply about it. Excellent. So that's 10 million. It's your daily business. Just say it took me a while because I didn't really think it was that important. And I said to him, I've not got time for it. He says, you always have time for drinking, John. Oh, right, fine. Shut up. And he said it nice and gently. Nice, gentle bit. And that was me. Off and running with the program. The only problem is when you take it into the rooms, you don't want to hear it. Give me a hard time of it. When I was only young, you know, I was 40 years of age, going on 11. With all this stuff, I wanted to shout it. I was in the room shouting, and people were calling me names, big thumper and all that stuff. You know, God, wanted to go back to the band. So, well, the sad story is, John, you talk this program in those rooms, you'll end up drinking coffee on the road. And never a true statement. 25 years later, 26 years later. People don't like me. I'm a troublemaker. I should pardon me from a few meetings. I pointed out to them that you actually can't do that. You know, it's kind of kangaroo reports because you don't invite the accused. Just, they can't get it. It's just can't get it. And the sad thing is that, I mean, okay, it annoys me. Sometimes it really annoys me. But it's not going to affect me. Very quickly, too. When newcomers go to these meetings, there's a feelings meeting. They got upset with it because I was very critical about sponsors. Very critical. Still am. The scourge of the earth, sponsors. The man at page 18, he's the man who's found this solution, who's in possession of the facts about himself. He's taking steps. He can help when nobody else can. And without him at all, nothing can be achieved. Very important person. But they don't like talking about it. I'd do my own thing. Alright, that works, isn't it? Do your own thing. You go and drive a car and do your own thing, you're going to kill yourself. Get a grip. That's a stupid, very childish thing to say. Oh, I just do whatever I want to do. You do it your way, I'll do it my way. No, sorry, that's not what it says, but it says it's clear, precise instructions. If you're not going to follow the clear, precise instructions, which you obviously don't, or we wouldn't be having this conversation, then you're a poison. You're a poison to these meats. And that's why he's in the state it's in. Final statement, sadly. Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't work. Program works, but AA doesn't work. And that's sad and tragic. It makes me feel sad. But I don't know how much time I've taken on this. We're just over there. That's not too bad. How do I stop it? Oh, there it's down there. So if you got something from it, that's fine. And please contact me if you want to clarify anything, because there's quite a bit in there. Well, there's a whole programs in there. Save your life, what I've talked to you about. So I'm so used to it. So it's intuitive. Intuitively know how to handle things I used to have. And the promises I couldn't find in the book for some strange reason. You will intuitively know how to handle things. I knew that was good. Didn't even know what it meant, but I knew it was good. I went to one meeting because I read the promises just to hear somebody read that out. You will intuitively know. And then I found out what intuitive meant. You do it without thinking. So ride the bike, drive your car, well, you just do it so often that you just intuitively know. That's fantastic. Because I'm living my life now. Okay, I'm an old cripple at the moment. Hopefully I'll get better. But I know there's an awful lot to be grateful for. I look at my bank account. How did I get that much? Where did all that come from? And I work part time. I work less than 15 hours a week. And I've got money all over the bloody place. And I don't spend it because what have I got to spend it on? I've got this shiny little computer. I've had it for years. An Acer. Highly recommend it. And behind it, I've got a 27-inch Mac and iMac. Always wanted one of them. And I went to buy it off a guy. And he happened to have two because he used them in a business. So I went to buy one and I ended up doing the deal and buying two. And I had the money. That's the thing. How many times did I sit being envious of people who talked about having this and talked about having that, a new car or whatever, and I was envious of them, jealous. Envy's not too bad, but jealousy is sick. Alcoholics are jealous. Envy people what they've got, but I don't deny them what they've got. But when I'm jealous, I deny them. I want it, and I want it off you. I want to deprive you of it, and I want it. And it's very sick business going on in the alcoholic's head. It's a cancer. The thinking is a cancer. I think and I act on the thinking. Yeah. Probably the alcoholic starts the alcoholic's mind. It's in the book. So you have to change your thinking. I think I've been through step 4 and kind of fluffed off step 5, which is basically just talking to the man about what you've done. And anyway, I'm not here to do it for you. You've got a book with clear cut mistakes and structures. For goodness sake, a simple program for complicated people. Yeah, you should never mind me that statement, but it's definitely true because we're adult children. I don't tell our alcoholics and adult children because I said, well, how do you walk into a room and start telling them the truth? Well, you can't because you'll get angry and upset. And so, what do? How do you get the message across? Be nice and gentle, nice and doesn't work. You just have to give them it straight between the eyes and hold the book up. That's the only thing I've got to back me up in that respect. Nobody can deny that. Yeah, I don't like the way he puts that across. They're like, well, read the book and come to your own conclusions. What does it matter whether you like him? Some people like him, some people can't please everybody, you know. And there's a nut for every spanner, I heard somebody say. And I thought that was kind of clever. So puerile and nut for every spanner. Cut it out. You know, just tell them. The program is in the book. Just clear cut, precise instructions. And as Ray Laurie said, Ray Laurie, that was the guy. Chelmsford hates me. He's the same as that wee Jimmy, Scottish guy from Richmond. And Ray Laurie, you thought you got away with that, Laurie, but you're not. Laurie hates me with a passion. He's 30 odd years sober. He criticises and wants to cross shares everything that I share, which I don't allow him to do, but it tends to upset the meeting. And I was sharing it at this wee meeting, and I talked about it being a book of instruction, and this wee voice piped up. Not a book of instructions, a book of suggestions. Tell it as it is. Oh, right, okay. The secretary was good. He knew his job. He allowed for me right up to the head. So he says, well, okay, if it's a book of instructions, Laurie, because he was now getting personal, then if it's a book of suggestions, as you say, and you're 30 odd years sober, allegedly, he hates that when I say that, and you're a man of letters and words, you're a journalist. So if it's a book of instructions, answer the question. What is it instructing? You know, and his mouth falls up. What's it instructing us to do? Suggesting, what is it suggesting? It's suggesting that we follow the clear cut precise instructions, Laurie. Isn't it? And then you get no answer. Yeah. Because he's wishing the ground would eat him up. And then it's in the book, Laurie. You know, it's a book of suggestions while you're making up your mind whether you're an alky or not. As soon as you've made up your mind after step 1 and step 2, and step 3, step 1 identifies the problem, powerlessness, step 2 identifies solution, power creating yourself through the program. Step 3, you make a decision to do what? To follow their way, to follow their path. All right. With the book of instructions, Laurie. So up to that point, it's a book of suggestions. Once you take, say, what's that little joke? And you know, that it's quite funny, I suppose. But at the time I heard this, it just confused me. It's like, oh, the instructor, you're doing a parachute jump, and the instructor suggests that you pull the ripcord. It's up to you. But if you don't pull the ripcord, you're going to die. So the instruction is pull the bloody ripcord, right? But you know, I'm a voice in the wilderness, sadly, and this will make me feel better. And it's getting me out of a rut because of this lockdown stuff and all that, which I kind of rubbish until my neighbour died of it. But, then it kind of struck home to me how serious it was. But anyway, I do hope somebody gets something from it. And if you don't, just ignore me. Or write in, make comments, and we'll have a discussion about it. We'll have an argument about it. It's all good fun. Okay. So end the stream. Press the button. Bye bye. Bye bye. And have a good life. And if you practice this program, and if you recover, you will have a good life. Promise.